I'm sitting far back.
It makes you look really tiny next to me. Do you want to switch seats so that you're seated higher?
I don't really care. Forced perspective.
You
you
look
are kind of
like-
closer, but also, yeah, the seat sinks down way more than I thought it did.
It looks like you're a hobbit next to me.
Hello, welcome to Converse-ations. Today we are discussing Anastasia.
And we don't know where we are. Where are we, Eric?
We're in the living room. This is called green screen.
Sure.
So Anastasia was a person.
Yes.
She's also a fictionalized character, kind of.
Her story has lived on with a large dose of fiction.
So so Anastasia was Russian, and then
Yes.
there was death.
Super specific.
I'm a great teacher.
So Anastasia was the youngest daughter of Tsar Nicholas II. Not the youngest child, but the youngest daughter. She's the youngest of 4 girls, but she did have a younger brother, Nikolai, who had hemophilia, which means he bled like all the time, to the point that like a ball bumped him and he got a giant bruise, really, really bad. And the family did everything they could to keep him protected because obviously as the male heir, he was the one that they were like super focused on, and the baby of the family, like it's quite the combo. There was a dark and mysterious man who was seemingly able to control the hemophilia symptoms, and that's where Rasputin comes into the story, and that he said that he was able to cure him and was able to keep the symptoms at bay, but only if he like spent all of his time with them. So they were like, whatever it takes to keep the kid alive, let's do that. However, this happened to be right in the middle of, a time of large civil unrest. And, communism. I feel like a lot of people know what happened there. So the entire royal family was going to be executed, because that's kind of what you do in those situations. And as they were shuffling them out the door, they knew they had I think it's maybe not even a couple of hours, but they had a little bit of warning that, the revolutionaries were coming, and the women lined their bodices with every family jewel they owned. They were like, we gotta get these out, we gotta save these. So they stuffed their corsets with jewelry, so then they opened fire on them, and they basically were bulletproof because they had so much jewelry in their corsets. So it was kind of freaking out the revolutionaries of why can't we kill them? So then they did finally gun them down by aiming somewhere that was not a jewelry-filled corset. They were then attempting to get rid of the bodies, and someone had the bright idea of cremation. If we cremate these remains, nobody will be able to identify them. However, what they didn't realize was that the fires have to be just stupid hot in order to burn a human body. So they had built this fire, but they just built a regular bonfire in the woods, and they tossed the 2 smallest bodies, which would have been Nikolai and Anastasia, in. And then it didn't really burn because it was not a hot enough fire, and they panicked and they dug a shallow grave and they dumped all the bodies in and they left. So nobody really thought that Nikolai would have survived this. Alexei? I'm suddenly thinking his name is Alexei and not Nikolai.
I think you're right. I think it's
Alexei.
Alexei.
Alexei. Okay. So no one...
It's okay. We'll just...
It's fine. So no one thought that the hemophiliac young boy was going to have survived that situation. So the fact that his body was pretty much impossible to identify didn't really slow anybody up. But the fact that the Anastasia body was not identifiable because of the damage done meant that a lot of people, this story kind of popped up but what if she escaped? What if the youngest girl escaped? And it's kind of a super romantic story of little lost princess and her family ripped away, but did she make it out?
Well, and then over time people claimed that they were the princess, and it just continued to evolve into this fairy tale type story.
It kind of grew into a myth.
So then in 1956, a 20th Century Fox live action film called Anastasia came out that was about a girl that thought that she was the Princess Anastasia, and it was this whole big long process with that and figuring that out and trying to remember her memories and all of this stuff. And then later in the 1990s, Don Bluth said, I want to make that movie, but I want to make it a musical, and I want to make it animated. And everyone was like, that sounds dumb. And by everyone, I mean everyone at Disney, because Disney hated him at that point. And then the Anastasia 1997 film was released, and everyone was like, where did this come from?
Pretty well.
Yeah. There were a lot of toys.
Yeah.
I remember a lot of toys, which was weird for a non-Disney movie.
It was the first Don Bluth production with 20th Century Fox.
I think so, yes.
That sounds right.
That sounds right. Because he used to do a lot of stuff with Universal.
Yeah. And then rights changed. There were some people that were from Disney that did work on the project, including Mike Perkins. He worked on Anastasia. And I think everyone can agree, hands down, the music is the best part of the animated film. The music is fantastic. So it took a long time, but eventually someone went, that should be on stage. They did the really fun thing where they take the source material of the animated film, they keep some of the songs, and then they write a whole bunch of new ones, and they make the story work for the stage instead of doing a direct adaptation.
Well, the other thing that they did too, which I thought was really nice, is that they went back to the 56 version. They went back to the historical documents and tried to figure out, okay, so where are we in this timeline?
Which pieces do we want to keep, and which pieces work well together. Now, the animated movie, Rasputin is your big villain, really built off of the fact that the revolutionaries' attempts to kill Rasputin took like 3 tries because he kept surviving. He got shot in the head and then was fine. And everybody was like, that's not... It was scaring people. He was genuinely scaring people because he was super intimidating and then couldn't die. So the animated film has Rasputin as the villain, but that doesn't really work on stage because he did things like randomly fall apart.
Yeah.
Which does not work on stage.
What is great about the story is that now we have a musical. There have been rumors. I don't think any date or any casting or anything has been officially confirmed, but there are rumors going around that we are doing another adaptation of Anastasia for the film, and it's going to be a film version of the musical, and God only knows what's going to happen with that because nobody ever says anything.
It's the entertainment vicious cycle of we're going to adapt this in one medium and then it's going to do well, so we're going to readapt it in a different medium and then we're going to readapt that version in a cycle that we've seen several times with things like Hairspray.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think with the new plot line, I think that a movie version would do really well, and the people that are seeing.
Yeah.
This is the type of thing where the musical has changed enough to where it's a very different product,
and
so then
necessitates its own adaptation.
Correct. Yeah. As opposed to doing something where it's like, oh, this is like exactly the same. This was so unnecessary.
Beauty and the Beast.
I don't understand why we are watching the same thing and not as good. Anyways, so Anastasia, she still lives kind of in a fictionalized form.
She lives on in the popular culture.
Yes. And everyone sings Journey to the Past as much as they have 20 years ago. And they need to calm down because they are not.
Also, my mom had told me about the Anastasia thing before the animated film came out. Obviously, I did not read the book in 1995, but it was a book we had in the house, and then I went in and just read that section. I didn't read the rest of the book as a kid, but everybody was like, Anastasia, and I was like, but the story's completely fake, she's dead, we know she's dead, and everybody was like, we don't know if she died, and I'm like, no, we do know that. It was the first time I was really aware of the fact that, people didn't actually sometimes know what they were talking about.
Well, and then there's a difference between watching this film where it's they created a fairy tale type environment
but it was
a real world, but then the real people in the real world right now are like,
people.
Oh, and I'm like, stop being stupid.
Yeah, talking to other people as a kid making me realize other people don't back up the things that they say. You look tiny next to me and I can't get over it. Dude.